Yo, where them Catholics at? Man, what's the matter with these bishops?
And welcome back, everybody. It's the Catholic Convert Show. As usual, it's a glorious day here in northwestern South Carolina, and it's not so glorious over there in Jersey where Ed's hanging out, but it's Jersey, so it's never really glorious anyway. But I've got some news for you all. We've got a guest on the show today. The man's name is Jim Moore, but you may all know him as That Catholic Song Guy. And just before the show, I was talking with him, and I told him that we probably need to shorten that to something catchy like share. And we'll see if he takes our advice in the future. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and bring him to the show and welcome Jim.
Hello, fellas.
Jim, how are you?
Howdy.
I am feeling well. Thanks for having me on.
Well, I didn't have a whole lot of options to choose from, and you just kind of made the cut. I'm just kidding.
Okay.
So, I don't know, vice presidential.
Yeah.
Not really wanted.
JD Vance was on the list, but I was like, nah, got to be That Catholic Song Guy.
So, Jim, I got to ask you, because I catch a lot of heat from Jeff from being a Jersey guy, albeit a South Jersey guy. You mentioned you were from Jersey, but I don't think you're in Jersey now, are you?
No, we're in Florida now, but I was born and bred in Jersey City, New Jersey, Garden Spot of the Garden State.
I can't imagine there are a lot of gardens in Jersey City, are there?
Well, I used to know a guy who had a windowsill garden, but he never told the police about it, put it that way.
A very special windowsill garden. Jim, I got to ask you, because I was flipping through your music there, and I mean it's amazing. You really do touch basically every genre out there, I think. But what caught my attention is you call yourself James the Least. Now, I'm familiar with James the Greater. I'm familiar with James the Less, but I'm not familiar with James the Least. So why James the Least?
Because I thought it sounded clever.
Okay, well,
and because I'm way below all of them. Okay. Maybe someday I'll have a band and I'll call it James and the Least. So it might be.
That would be very catchy, and I think, Jeff, that solves your issue too. Because then he would just be James and the Least. So that would work out.
Yeah. It's Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons.
Exactly.
I can dig it. A little piece of trivia: the Four Seasons played the wedding of my buddy's parents.
Wow!
Back in the day before they were anybody.
That's
nice.
Quite a long day ago, then, I would imagine.
Yeah, it was back in Newark, back in I guess the 50s.
Oh right, yeah, they're from Newark, aren't they? Yeah,
they are.
Lot of good music of that era and genre from up North Jersey, especially around Newark and stuff. I know. But so why the Catholic Song Guy? Like what said, hey, I'm a Catholic guy, I'm hanging out, I'm enjoying life, I'm going to church on Sundays and stuff, but you know what? I want to pick up a guitar and I want to lay down some tracks. Where'd that come from?
Well, before you answer, the reason for this question, I have the same question, because I'm of the mind right now that if I ever go to mass and I find anyone with a guitar, they're wearing that guitar. So,
well, first of all, none of my stuff is intended to be liturgical. First of all,
exactly.
It's my attempt to kind of bring friends again. Say that we can be friends again. It's my attempt to kind of bring that singer-songwriter perspective to Catholic thought, Catholic themes. I grew up playing guitar in those folk masses that you love so well back in the 70s. And actually, I can remember wanting to learn to play the guitar to do that, in addition to my quote-unquote rock and roll dreams that every kid had. So anyway, grew up doing that a lot, but years go by, and during COVID, actually, I had a lot of time on my hands, as we all did, and just started to think about other things I could do with this quote unquote gift I've been given. Yeah, I'm given the ability to do it, so I figure I should do something useful with it rather than sit around trying to write pop songs that no one's ever going to hear or care about. So now I write Catholic songs that no one's ever going to hear or care about, but I feel better about it. I had done a bit of that kind of writing before, but during COVID, I got a chance to sit down and reflect on it and think where I could take it. I actually joined a group of Christian songwriters online, and we talked a lot about how we bring faith into the music. And I just started to record them and put them out there and hope that people hear them and get something out of them.
Very cool. So this is actually a very recent turn of events then, I guess. So you're saying because it happened during COVID.
Yeah, the oldest song on my track list there is probably from about 2015, when I started playing around with the idea of using Catholic themes in songs. But the real revving up of it happened more so after COVID, when I decided to really, really focus on it.
Yeah. So where do you ever play like at your parish, at other venues?
No. We literally just moved to the area we're living in, so we're kind of only just now becoming parishioners at some place. But I've never played this stuff out. It's just out there for people to hear.
That's cool.
I do open mics, doing regular songs and things like that, just oldies and stuff like that. But
well, we had Enoch on the show not long ago, and it's actually his music that is our opening music. That's from his song That Ain't Catholic. And one of the things I mentioned to him was that when I hear someone say, I make Christian music, I immediately revolt a little. I'm like, oh no, it's going to be that Jesus is my boyfriend vibe that you have from most Hillsong praise music kind of stuff. And I'm calling out all the ancient folks with their Amy Grants and their Newsboys and the Casting Crowns kind of guys. I was pleasantly surprised when I heard Enoch's music, and I was equally pleasantly surprised when I heard yours.
Thank you.
Is that something that you were conscious of because it's such a common theme in Christian music?
Yes, I did not set out to write praise and worship. That was not what I wanted to do. I wanted to do songs that might appeal to Catholics in their everyday lives. Certainly, some of the stuff is about particular spirituality. I have a song called "Pray the Blues Away," which is about the Rosary. But it's focused on living life as a Catholic. It's not focused on the praise and worship feeling, which is, I think, what you're getting at, where you've got the same three chords over and over again, and you're just repeating refrain like Jesus.
Yeah, you don't have like a laser show going on in the studio when you're recording fog machines.
No, I don't. It's Florida. Sometimes there's lightning, but that's okay.
Well,
actually, I haven't done any recording here yet because we just moved and everything's in boxes.
So. I mentioned earlier that you kind of cross a lot of different genres with your stuff, and I got to tell you, a new favorite of mine is reconciled rock. I don't know if that's up on the top of your list of your personal favorites, but it's got a great beat, it's got a catchy tune, and I think it's something we can all relate to, in the world at least.
I like that one, and I got to play my my Gretsch hollow body on that one too, so I got to do a little kind of fairy stuff. So that was fun.
That was cool. Very nice. I was doing some background stuff here, and I think you probably have a very interesting story regarding your son, if you didn't mind me bringing that up.
No, my wife and I got married in 1996. We were both in our late 30s. Mid to late 30s, and God blessed us through the intercession of Our Lady with a son, and he developed a sense for the priesthood when he was very young, and it came and went.
Oh wow!
He was going to be a firefighter. He was going to be a police officer. All sorts of very service-oriented stuff. But then he finally came back to, I've had this call all my life, and I want to pursue it. So now he's a seminarian. God willing, he'll be ordained in 2027.
Beautiful. What cemetery is he attending?
No cemeteries, but he's in a seminary.
Oh, sorry if it sounded like cemetery.
I thought I was the only one that caught that. I was like, Ed,
did I really say cemetery?
Yeah.
Oh, gosh.
Woo. He might be assigned to one someday. I don't know.
What seminary is he attending?
He is a seminarian for the Archdiocese of Baltimore, and he is at Mount St. Mary's.
Oh, very cool. That's wonderful. Yeah, that's why I brought it up, because we've talked about it too, about vocations on this show, and actually I've spoke to a priest who's in charge of vocations for the diocese I am in, the Diocese of Trenton, and he said that there's this disturbing trend over the last several years where it used to be. I mean, even when I was a kid, I'm sure when you were a kid, Jim, if someone said our son is going to become a priest, there were pats on the back and how blessed you are and what a wonderful gift and things like that. And this guy who's in charge of vocations here says he'll have parents discouraging their sons. Why do you want to throw your life away? Why do you want to go that route? We're never going to have grandkids, so on and so forth. And that kind of broke my heart when he said that. But I'm curious what your reaction was when he mentioned he was going to seminary.
Oh, we were thrilled.
Good.
His life, obviously he was a gift to us. We get to take care of him, but he belongs to God, and he's Mother Mary's boy in many ways. As a parent, you got to teach people to be their own people. I think you'd agree with that. And we wanted him to follow God's path for him, wherever that led. And whenever he would bring up the priesthood, great, buddy, let's talk about it. It's just, which is same way we would have talked about. I'll slow down. See, there's the North Jersey coming out of me talking too fast. The same way we would have done anything else he brought to us. He had an interest, we fed it. We had healthy interest. Fortunately, he always had healthy interests. So we couldn't be more delighted. And the grandchildren thing has never fazed me. We've only had one person ever say something like that to us. Said, "Oh my gosh, you're going to miss out on having grandchildren." Well, many spiritual grandchildren will have.
Absolutely. Yeah, we have this thing, and I'm happy that we still have the attitude where if you see someone, in fact, I was in a town not far from me that has a military base, and so if you go into any stores around there, you'll run into people in uniform, and I'm always the first person to thank them for their service and do so very sincerely. I think we need to start having that same attitude when it comes to parents of priests, and say thank you so much for the gift that you've given our church. And I mean, hopefully I'll see that in my day. I don't know if I will or not, but I would like to personally thank you for doing such a fine job of raising your son, and so that he felt that you guys were supportive in when he made that decision. So that's it's something special, I think, to have a child.
Faith has always been an important part of life around our house. My wife is a catechist, and so we've always had things. Made sure it was it's just a regular part of life. It's nothing outside of anything. And we've been very fortunate to be in communities over the years. We moved out of New Jersey when he was about 6 months old because of an emergency job change on my part. And so he grew up in the Midwest, and we were around a lot of faith-based people, that sort of thing, and of all stripes. But he wound up in a very supportive area, went to a small independent Catholic school as a kid, and got nurtured as the faith, with the faith being not something odd, just as part of the air you breathe.
Yeah, it's interesting that you mentioned a move to the Midwest, because I've done a lot of looking into this kind of thing of how do we jumpstart the fire and the faith in areas like the Northeast where it's kind of been waning. And I noticed that in places in dioceses like Wichita and Lincoln, Nebraska, and some others in that area where it seems like there's a really great Catholic presence and a real excitement about their faith. So, I guess you experienced the same thing in the Midwest.
Yes. Just how do I put this? I'm just trying to slow myself down again. Sorry. the thing we noticed going out there is that people were far more open about their faith than I remember them being as I grew up in New Jersey. Now, mind you, I grew up 3 blocks from the church. I think you guys were talking about, was it yesterday or a couple of days ago, about when the rectory used to be attached to the church and all that sort of thing. There was a full city block in Jersey City where it was the church, a hallway leading to the rectory, and then there was a convent over the side and my grade school. So I know what you were talking about. What got me on that?
Talk about the vibe in the Midwest as far as
okay. So that was the era I grew up in. So I could have easily gone the priesthood route just from having that in the air, but I just knew I wasn't being called there. Out in the Midwest, we found Christians of all stripes being far more everyday about their faith, that sort of thing. And so that was a good atmosphere for him to grow up in. We have some family actually in Wichita. My brother-in-law from New Jersey happened to marry a Wichita girl, and they're down there. And we've met a lot of the priests down there, and boy, what a powerhouse that is. And I'm sure that had some effect on Michael too. Yeah. That he met all these solid young guys down there as well. Certainly in the area that we were in, up in the Kansas City area too. So it's we were blessed, and I don't not see God's hand in where he moved us around. So
sure. Yeah, no, it's amazing what goes on out there. I've noticed that in Lincoln they put as many men in the seminary annually that my diocese puts in over a decade. So
there's something else out there, and well, Bishop Connolly is
he's a good one,
dynamite guy.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I was going to say it's kind of the same here in the South, which it's ironic because the South is historically known to be an anti-Catholic area. But the area where I live, just outside of Greenville, South Carolina, I don't know if you follow him on Twitter, but Father Dwight Longenecker and he and I have become friends. His parish is probably 15 minutes from my parish, and he and I have gotten together, and we've discussed this a little bit at times too. It's amazing that in the most unlikely of areas, the Midwest or the South, part of that Rust Belt, Bible Belt culture where Protestantism seems to have taken its big hairy hobbit feet and stabbed them into the ground 4 miles deep, you see such a huge boom and growth in the Catholic communities to the point where they're having to build additional parishes. Whereas when you look at places that are more traditionally Catholic, as far as demographic goes, the the Northeast and the American Southwest around Los Angeles, where you have a lot of the Hispanic population. There's majoritively Catholics down there as well, if they're not agnostics or Hollywood heathens. And you see those areas dwindle where it seems to be an endless fountain in these communities. You know, Ed, you're talking about how you see these parishes pop up, or the diocese sending, 15, 20 people at a time every single year to the seminary. And that's usually a 3 or 4 year thing in more traditionally Catholic areas. I think here in the Diocese of Charleston, where I am, I believe we've got between 30 and 40 seminarians going in almost every year.
That's amazing.
And it's great. We have, just at my parish alone, we've got 50 odd altar servers. We've got, I believe, 6 seminarians just from my parish. And it's kind of wild to see it that way, especially when, you're talking about your son who is now in the seminary, and he always had this calling to kind of be a priest. And I remember Ed telling me stories of when he was a kid. He used to dress up as a priest and out there and give mass as a child, or the divine liturgy, in his backyard. Was that something your son did?
Well, he was in something called Catechesis of the Good Shepherd, which is a program that a lot of parishes have. And it's sort of a Montessori-based Teach the Faith program. And they had a little altar set up, that sort of thing. And you weren't supposed to pick up the tiny chasubles and that sort of thing, but he always would. And the teacher finally just said, "Oh, forget it, just go ahead." and so he would always be playing mass in that way. And then we did get him a little mass kit later on that he had around the house. So yeah, nice. It was any level of pretend that we could ever get into with him, whatever he was doing, we did. I'm a big kid, and theater kid growing up, and he was a theater kid, and so he and I just always gotten into a lot of role play, that kind of thing, and it's been a lot of fun.
Well, I'm not surprised that he was a theater kid and you engage with that, considering you're a creative as well with your music. So I'm not surprised that was a trait that was carried on.
Yeah, and my wife was a theater kid in high school too. So we had a lot of fun just working behind the scenes on the shows that he would do.
Well, very cool.
Very cool.
So do you have any thoughts about performing your music live for anybody, or is it you really just going to keep it set up?
I would, I suppose, if someone asked me to. A lot of the stuff would require a band, that sort of thing. I've got a day job, so I don't know if I have time to do a lot of traveling around, that sort of thing. I do have the option I do have the great privilege, as you guys do, of working from home, so that's a good thing. I'm not averse to it. I just don't know where it would fit in at this point in time.
Okay. Yeah, because
well, at the very least, it could be a festival.
Absolutely.
Exactly. Yeah. If someone invited me somewhere, I'd be happy to take the guitar and go. But it's not something I'm planning on doing, turning this into a ministry or anything like that. It's just.
Well, you could always start busking.
That's true. That's true. I can just play outside a church, and all proceeds go to the
Starbucks. Right there at Starbucks on open mic night, or lay out the guitar case, play for tips. It's a great extra, little side income. Might be able, after 45 days, you could afford some Starbucks coffee.
There you go. Yeah, I do play tried a few local mics in this new area we're in. I'm going to try slipping a couple of the originals in there and see what kind of response they get.
You're playing James Taylor, and then you cut into Reconciled Rock, right?
Reconciled Rock, yeah. You can see that definitely do. You can't really do that one justice on solo guitar.
No, I will say when you sent me the link for Reconciled Rock, immediately I sang it in my head to the tune of Crocodile Rock.
And then I was like, "Oh, this is the play on the title, certainly."
Yeah, but that's the tune I sang it to. And I was like, "Oh, this is okay. It's not the same."
Yeah, that song had a couple of different titles before I landed on that
one. Well, you chose well. You say you're living in Florida now. Were you tempted to move to Ave Maria?
Oh gosh, no, never that far south. Okay. No, we're in the greater Jacksonville area.
You're pretty far north then.
Oh yeah. We wanted to be someplace where we could relatively quickly, drive to our son, that sort of thing. You can take a look at me, Irish Catholic kid. I burn in a well-lit room. I'm not going to go that far south to Florida.
The thing about Florida
we're just
is
south
the
enough
further
that
south you go, the more northern it gets.
I'm sorry, Jeff?
I was going to say, the thing about Florida is the further south you go, the more northern it gets.
Very true.
Yeah, a lot more transplants are down there than up here, put it that way.
Yeah. Very interesting.
But we're really enjoying it here.
I'm curious, people ask me questions all the time about, because I write probably north of 40 books a year for my clients. Some of them are originals that I have to come up with stories on my own, and it's easy for me. But if you asked me, can you write a song? Absolutely not. I can write 20, 30, 80,000 word novels in a year. I can't write a 2-minute song. There's absolutely not. There's zero chance of that happening. How did you get into songwriting?
Well, that I've been doing, and just point of fact, I rearranged the alphabet for a living too, but I do mostly content, articles, websites, that kind of thing. That's my bailiwick. And on the side, I do some playwriting. That's not what I get paid for, is to do the other stuff. Songwriting is something I started very, very early. I was maybe 6 or 7, and I just wanted to. I really wanted to write the songs other people were singing, that kind of thing. So I just always gravitated toward doing that. It was something I enjoyed. So it's just something I've always done, and the guitar, helped with that. And I'm sure I made it through a lot of teenage angst, just filling up notebooks with drivel.
Luckily, you went through teenage angst before Kurt Cobain was even a thing. So
yes, yeah. No, I was.
Now let me ask.
There were things in my record collection like the Archies. That.
Oh, nice.
The Dave Clark 5.
You got it.
Oh, I love the Dave Clark 5. But okay, let me ask you this: when it comes to songwriting, is it possible to even write a song without the ability to play music, or is that kind of like a required factor?
No, I think there are a lot of people who do that with limited amount of musical knowledge, but a lot of people also partner up with others to do lyric and melody. I personally am a stronger lyricist than I am a composer, and I don't like when songwriters really call themselves composers, because you don't do all that arranging and that sort of thing. I used to work with a partner who once in a while still do, who prefers to do the music than the lyric. So I think if anyone's got just a natural sense of melody or something like that, they can do.
Okay, so that's
because the human body is an instrument, right? The organ was created to emulate.
This one isn't. This one isn't.
I've heard him sing. Not good.
Yeah, if you've got a sense of melody, you can do it. I mean, but then if you just feel like writing down some lyrics, hand them off to somebody else for the music.
Yeah. I'm wondering, Jim. We'll talk about. Jeff will bring up a lot of the things I do within the church, and he'll joke about how I do it for like 10 different churches. And Jeff, I know, is very involved. He's only been in that parish for a little over a year, I think, Jeff, and he's working on projects with the church with helping them redo their kneelers and their pews and things. He's already got a men's group fired up, and they've got a year's worth of events planned and a bunch of other. He's got at least one son who's an altar server and stuff. But are you really involved in your parish? I mean, you just moved, so you might have to speak about previous parishes, but have you always been involved with your parishes?
That's how we grew up, because like I said, we just lived literally down the hill from our church in Jersey City. So life kind of revolved around the parish, and it was very unusual for any boy in my school to not be an altar boy for that sort of that kind of thing. So always very active in the parish. Always, obviously, the guitar group thing that took me all the way through high school. Doing that, and not just at my parish, but at other churches around the area. So yeah, always been very involved. We're looking forward to getting involved here as soon as we're more settled.
So you found your church, though, your Catholic church, and when you're going to settle.
Oh yeah, we think so. Our choices aren't large, but we've got one that we're pretty happy with, and the young pastor is fabulous, and he actually went to my son's seminary. So.
Oh wow, that's kind of cool. Nice connection. I'm always curious, like when people move to different parts of the country, are they able to find a Catholic church? Or are they able to find a number of them? I know I was kind of joke all the time about moving from, even though I live in a part of New Jersey that's different than most people envision, down here where there's the Pine Barrens and the farmland and things like that, but it's still kind of congested. So I'll joke with friends about wanting to move somewhere south where it's quiet. And one place I joked about moving was Hot Coffee, Mississippi. And I love the name. But I'm looking around, and it would have been like almost like a 2-hour drive to the nearest Catholic church. It's something you have to consider. So I guess you were kind of lucky. But do you find that are there more than one Catholic church in your area? Did you have some choices?
Oh, no, we've got two within easy driving distance, and another one within relatively easy driving distance. So yeah, it's the Diocese of St. Augustine, so there's a lot of there are certainly options. But right here, basically two, and we decided on one.
Wesley, I mean, Jeff, you have, what is it, 35, 40 minutes for you, Jeff, to get to church?
If traffic is what I would call school year traffic, it's probably a 40-minute drive. But if it's relatively clear of traffic and I don't catch every single red light, I can be there in like 32. But I have the exact same issue that Ed was bringing up. My wife and I were looking at buying a house in West Virginia just a few years ago, and I'm down here in South Carolina. And the house, I'd say, was maybe 2 months before I joined the Catholic Church and found my parish. It was a beautiful farmhouse. It's got 2 ponds, 60 acres, incredible price point. And being a writer, I'm not tied to a geographical location. So it seemed like a very smart move, especially when you can make, 2 to 3 times the median income of the area. Wherever you move to, you're going to live like a king very comfortably. And so like, okay, let's do this. And then we found this parish. And my immediate fear was, if we move, I'm never going to find another parish like this. So I guess we're staying here. And if we do move, we're going to move somewhere just closer to the parish. That's not a 40-minute drive. So,
well, if you got that level of community that you seem to have there, that's hard to walk away from.
Yeah. And it was one of those things where I just felt immediately welcomed as a guy who was a former Protestant, former pagan, then a nothing forever, just walking into the church. And next thing you know, the priest is stopping me in the narthex, and he's talking to my wife, my kids, me, random people I've never met, just walking up to us and, hey, you're new here. Like, it was great. And I'm like, okay, I'll probably never find this again. And so I'm like, no, I can't move. Was that like a big fear for you when you were moving down there? Did you even consider it an option, or was it like, as long as it was a Catholic church, it doesn't really matter if it isn't great as long as I'm there?
Yeah, we would certainly never move any place where church wasn't relatively accessible, that sort of thing. But we knew they were here. We knew we would find a place. And yes, we would certainly have gone to a less desirable parish if that was the only one available. But knowing that the diocese here, St. Augustine, we knew that there's a good, strong Catholic tradition down here. We weren't too worried about it.
Jim, I would figure St. Augustine, the Diocese of St. Augustine, would be one of those. Like, it's kind of a safe bet.
Yeah, right. Jim, I'm wondering about getting back to your music a little bit, like, because I touched on the song, the song you have about reconciliation. I know you've got ones involving the Blessed Mother, about the Rosary, kind of the Catholic faith in general. Or like, what's the process there? Are you sitting there on a Sunday morning having your cup of coffee, reading the paper, and you're inspired, or to write about one of those particular topics, or do you see an issue within the church and like people aren't going to confession enough, people aren't praying the Rosary enough, and you write about it? How's that happen to you?
All sorts of different ways, really. But I would say it's finding something you want to say. For instance, the Reconciled Rock. I just wanted to take the heaviness out of confession. Just relax. It's a conversation with God. So that's where that came from. I have some shorter little things that are sort of what you might call apologetic. I have one called Catholics Don't Worship Mary. It's a little blues. It just goes through that. There's one that kind of apologizes for being a member of the generation that tried to turn the score to Godspell into a de facto hymnal and that kind of thing. So So that's how old I am.
No, listen, I lived through most of that too, and I appreciate that you did that, because I think, and that's a perfect way of putting it, is turning Godspell into the Catholic missal, because that's what it seems like. But
so we're just a rich source of material, the Catholic Church. So look at all the beautiful art we have, right? So there's a lot to talk about. I just find something. Once in a while would be something strong. I wanted to write something about the Rosary, so I just tried to think about a way to do that. I wanted to write something about the Communion of Saints, so I did one of those. It's called Intercede for Me. I tend to gravitate toward the blues, but I like to branch out because you don't want to everything sound the same after a while. So I just, there's no particular process other than you look for an idea that catches your mind, catches your eye, catches your thought. It could just be as simple as what you think is a clever piece of lyric, and then you go from there.
So it's very similar to just writing articles or blogs,
that idea of a
like
song that came down to saying, "Intercede for me tonight," and it's, oh, let's try that.
No, I was saying, so it sounds very similar to just writing blogs, articles, or even just content online when there's something to say, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. There's sometimes, no, maybe I never force it. Put it that way. I'm not any kind of schedule. This isn't, as I say, an active ministry where I'm trying to put out new stuff all the time or put out an album's worth of stuff. When there's a good idea to be had, I'll do something with it and, again, put it out there. And if anybody cares, they care. If not, I've done what I think. I'm not going to put ego behind it and say what God has called me to do, but using what I am able to do in a more worthwhile fashion than I may have when I was 24 with long hair and in a rock and roll band.
No, you have a talent and you're using it. It's a talent that is given to you and you're using it in service to God. I don't know if you want to call that a calling or not. And I don't think everyone that has specific talents are called, in the sense that you are to a vocation. Mm-hmm. But it does seem wasteful to not use those talents that you have in some way in service of the Lord.
Thank you. Yes, I think that's true. Yeah, my vocation is husband and father. Music would never be a vocation, but certainly it's just something that's always been a part of my life. I can get a little bit soppy about it and say it kind of saved my life. When I was 5 years old in 1965, my father died on the loading dock, just had a heart attack and died. And my mother told me that I kind of shut down. The next memory I really have after him dying was my mother signing me up for guitar lessons. And that kind of, I think that kind of woke up something inside me, and something that's still going today. How's that for putting a drag on the conversation?
No, not at all. I mean, that's in a sense a wonderful story because of what it led to. Not what happened to your father. That's tragic. But again, there can always be something good that comes out of tragedy. Depending on what you do with it and where you're gonna turn yourself. Are you just going to be bitter and angry about it? Or are you going to take that energy and use it for something positive? So I think there is still a lesson in that story. And also, maybe that's not your vocation, but, you could affect people that you would never even know about. Like I'm thinking, you mentioned a few moments ago how with like Reconciled Rock, you wanted to make the topic of reconciliation a little lighter, that take some of that burden off people. Now, I'm a CCD instructor, and so usually the couple times a year I take the kids to reconciliation are the only times they're going, because it's a sad state of affairs. Like parents aren't taking their kids. So because it happens so infrequently and they're not fully aware of what's going on, I mean, they kind of have the general idea, they get very fearful of it. It becomes a panic attack to some of these kids. And I start talking about it weeks before we're going to go. So I think in the weeks leading up to taking them to reconciliation, I'm going to play your song with your permission in class. And I think it would be, add a little levity to it and take some of that pressure off. And so that's what I'm saying. Like, you never know. Here you are, you're writing these songs, you're putting them out there on the internet, and now they're going to be played in St. Gregory the Great church in Hamilton Square, New Jersey. You know what I mean? This is why when you have an idea and it has to do with God, you pursue it, regardless of where you think it's going to wind up.
Well, thank you, Ed, because I think you just stated what I'm trying to do. If anybody wants to play these songs anywhere, please do, that kind of thing. And if they do something for you or for the people around you, love it, please. And call me, I'll send you the chords, that kind of thing.
So I appreciate it.
That sort of thing.
You can get one of those sing-alongs where there's a bouncing ball on the projector screen.
On my YouTube channel, I do a lyric video for each song.
Oh, perfect.
Yeah, but we still need the old Disney VHS bouncing ball.
Boink, 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 boink.
Well, we can produce.
A little point of fact, my mom and dad, if you go on the site there over on SoundCloud, you'll find a song called Country in My Heart, which kind of talks about the debt I owe to my parents.
Absolutely. Nice. That's a beautiful thing to hear. And Jeff's aware of this, and some of our other listeners and stuff, is that, my parents have both been gone for quite a long time. My mom, 20 years now, my dad, 30 years. But the reason I am the person I am now, and the reason I have the faith that I have now, is because of them and because of the way they lived. So it's great that you do that you give them that tribute, because honestly, people would say it in a million different ways, but if you're a guy, if you're a Catholic man, your primary goal in your entire life is to get your family to heaven, whether that's just a wife, whether it's a wife and children, whatever your family is, your goal is to get them to heaven. Your parents worked hard on that, I'm sure. My parents certainly did the groundwork there to get that done. I try to do it with my kids, and I know certainly Jeff does. So it's important that at some time we do stop and look back, because not everybody has that. Not everybody has those people behind them saying, listen, you've got to get yourself to church. You've got to receive the sacraments. You've got to have that relationship with Christ. And thankfully, all three members of people on the screen here have either had that or are doing that now. And it's just such a critical element. So kudos to you for calling out mom and dad. I've written an article about my mom, an article about my dad, about how important they were to my faith development. So, yeah.
Well, interestingly enough, as few memories as I have of my father, one of them is the fact that he was an usher at church. And part of this is being told about it in retrospect, but he would usher every mass on a Sunday. This loading dock worker would dress up like the mayor of Jersey City on Sunday, kind of thing. And he would come back and pick us all up for 12 o'clock mass, that kind of thing.
Yeah. No, I get you on that. My father died 1992.
Wow.
So
that's exactly the same year my dad passed away.
Wow.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's been a long while. I didn't grow up with him, obviously, and I have very few memories of him that didn't involve him wearing an oxygen cannula or lying in a hospital bed. That's literally it. I think I have 5 whole memories of him. Currently, I do not own or possess any photographs of him. Same with my own childhood or any of my other biological family members. I don't own anything photograph-wise that isn't of my own children, because that side of my family is not compatible with peace. So I've had to alienate them from my life. And so when I hear stories like yours, I hear stories like Ed, and I go, I've got 2 options here. I could feel jealous that I didn't have that, or I could be inspired and see it as an opportunity to make sure that my children do have that. And that's the route that I take.
Amen.
You made the right choice.
And with 9 kids in the house, you've got plenty of opportunities for photographs.
No, thankfully, I do not have 9 in the house. There are 5 in the house. The other ones are grown, moved out, got their own their own lives, and hopefully they'll be starting their own families soon. I've got one son who's in the military. He's been dating this great girl from Colombia. She's also in the military. Mm-hmm. She's Catholic and she's rich. So, son, if you're watching this, I need you to pop that question ASAP.
What branch is he in, Jeff?
He's in the Army. He's with 7 Special Forces Group down there in Florida as well.
And congratulations on his service and thank him for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I will. He was just up here a couple of weeks ago. Hopefully he'll get a chance to come back. But right now, everything going on in the Middle East, even though their area of operations is South America, the Caribbean, because he goes down to Colombia and Belize and all these other places a lot to help train their military. Now they're still on alert with Israel and Palestine, Iran, all that other. So,
yeah,
well, and then with all the unrest in Venezuela, it's like, oh, you're getting pulled in 7 directions. Yeah.
Man, oh man. God bless him.
Yeah. See, this gentleman, this right here, this is what it's all about. You've got 3 Catholic gentlemen talking about their faith.
2 Catholic gentlemen. Don't lump me into that category.
Well, yeah,
you got 2 Catholic gentlemen, and
that was very generous.
Well, you're Catholic, Jeff. The gentleman part. I'm working on you. I'm trying to civilize you.
Well, I'm in the Knights of Columbus, so we're supposed to be Catholic gentlemen.
See, there you go. Right. Wow, we were just talking about you guys yesterday, and
I know. I heard.
Jeff had, Jeff. He's not very kind to the Knights. I love the Knights. No, but seriously, no. I have so many friends.
I haven't said anything bad about the Knights.
Well, on air,
telling lies.
No, but I love how you've got so many choices. Though, if you are a Catholic man and want to be a Catholic gentleman, the Knights is one of so many different options because the Knights are so service oriented. Obviously, they're doing it in the name of the Lord. But they're out there. They're doing it. They're collecting groceries. They're running fundraisers. You guys are out there doing it all. And then if you want though, the more spiritual aspects, you've got a million different choices with that as well. So that's another thing that I love about the Catholic faith is that you can join 2 or 3 of these. You can be a Knight and you can be a 3rd order Dominican at the same time if you want. And you can round out. You've got your spiritual life. You're doing your corporal works of mercy. Through the Knights, you're doing your spiritual works of mercy through the Dominicans, and it's such a great opportunity. And I'm glad that all the 3 guys here on the screen take advantage of that.
It's almost like it's universal.
You might say something like that. Where did I hear that?
Someone should make that connection in a book somewhere.
Might even want to put it in a creed. I don't know.
Hey, wait a minute. What rhymes with universal?
Yeah, what rhymes with universal? That if you come up with that one, you've got a
orange rhymes with universal.
Orange rhymes with everything. That's what they tell me.
Yeah, that's well, I'm having a wonderful time just chatting with the 2 of you. It's always great to be with like-spirited people. When we talk about like-minded people, like-spirited people are rarer.
It's I know, and that's what you have to do as Catholic men. Hopefully, you'll find that where I know you just moved, so where you're in Florida through your parish, whatever, you'll find that group of guys you can do that. I know Jeff, like I mentioned earlier, he's got a new men's group he just formed, and he hangs out with these like-minded individuals. I've got the same thing going on over here. Just like the hat says, iron sharpens iron. Just as each man sharpens another, and so. It's so critical, and I hope the people that watch this, they get that point that we try to make. It's so critical that you surround yourself with like-minded individuals because otherwise this world will pull you in the wrong direction very quickly. And you know what I'm saying, Jim. I'm sure every one of us has examples of guys who were good friends, good buddies, and somewhere along the line, they stepped back from God a little bit and they got pulled further and further in that direction. I know I can think of a man or 2 from back in my college days that I don't even speak to anymore because they've gone down such a dark path and want nothing to do with guys like me. And it's a shame. You've got to work at it. You've got to be vigilant. So Like I said, it seems like all three of us are at least trying to do that and keep the steady that way. And
we're putting the practice in practicing Catholic, right?
Right. Yeah. No, none of us will ever
good at it. We're practicing. Right?
It's called practice because we're never going to get it perfect.
Exactly.
I just wish they wouldn't apply that term to medicine. I'm a practicing surgeon. Well, I'm not.
Not on me.
You ain't practicing on me, buddy.
With you, buddy.
That's great.
Just sit there and eyeballing how he take him to lunch and then watch how carefully he cuts his steak before you book an appointment.
Well, if he's ordering steak, he's already got my book, so that's okay.
Well, there you go. As long as you're not putting A1 on it, we're good.
Oh my gosh! I saw something online. Someone said nobody eats steak without A1.
That was that guy Anthony that I'm sure we all follow, and I love him.
Oh,
but that was
me so much.
That was sacrilegious right there. That was blasphemy. Worst I've ever seen.
That's right up there with pineapple on pizza. That's right.
Oh, please. Don't even. Pineapple and ham on pizza. That person needs to be executed. I'm sorry.
That's cause for excommunication in some circles.
It is.
I think in the Archdiocese of Newark, it actually is. I think
it should be if it isn't. That
reminds me of that reminds me of the scene. Ed and I have Ed's friend, and I've met him as well. Vince Martell. He was the guitarist for the Vanilla Fudge. He sounds exactly like Joe Pesci when he talks. And so when we're over here talking about pineapple and pizza, there's that scene in Goodfellas where they're holding Joe Pesci by the head and the guys have got a hold of him. That's actually an accurate depiction of an Italian being forced to watch as pineapple was put on pizza for the first time.
Yeah. The thing of it is, with the three of us here, I'm the only one who has 24/7 access to actual real pizza, or as we would say, tomato pie. Because Jeb, you live in South Carolina. I don't know what the heck you boys are there when it's pizza night. And Jim, I don't. Have you found a place in Florida where you can get an actual real live?
Because that was the first thing that happened when we moved to the Kansas City area. First of all, where we lived for 20 years. I said, I got to find a pizza. I got to find a pizza.
Oh, that's a pizza desert.
Everybody and their brother would recommend to me the best pizza they knew, and it was like, sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. It's just not. I was hurting people's feelings. Thanks, but no thanks. We finally find one, and just before we moved, and I mean we've had it for a long time.
Yeah.
But just before we moved, they closed. They didn't make it through COVID, and we left town. But it still wasn't that. It still wasn't the Jersey pie. So we just the other day found the closest we can. A guy from Jersey who lives down here said, "I'm going to try this place over here." And it's not exactly what you were talking about, what we remember from home, but
it's close enough.
Well, I'll let you forget about bagels.
I'll let the two.
I don't know what you guys are talking about. Little Caesars is a viable option.
Oh my! All right, this show's over. We're done. Little Caesars.
Wow. Caesar ran the Roman Empire, shall we say?
Whoa, there's something to be said for that. But listen, I'll tell you, I'll give the two of you a little hint. You go to Gold Belly, and you can order frozen pizzas from Maruca's, which is a very local, classic, favorite pizza. You can get 3 frozen pizzas. They don't cook them; they just put them together. You can get them delivered overnight to you, and you will be loving life once you pop those babies in the oven.
What's Gold Belly? I'm sorry, I don't even know.
Gold Belly. Gold Belly is like if you move and you have favorite foods from where you were, they ship them to you through this service.
Oh my gosh! Oh
yeah. So go to Gold Belly.
I'm seeing pizza and kielbasa in my future.
Oh, kielbasa! Come on.
My wife's family is Polish, and so the old Passaic kielbasas were the best.
Yeah.
When I was living out in New Mexico, we had a neighbor who was from Chicago. He was a guy who was a couple of years younger than me, but he was from Chicago, and he actually moved down there to be a cop. And he and I hung out a few times. I finally got the idea to ask him, why do you get so many UPS deliveries? Like, what are you doing? Are you running the whole business? And he was like, no, I'm ordering Chicago deep dish pizza from Chicago.
There you go.
Like multiple times a week. So it's always coming to the house. And I was like, that's dedication to pizza. I mean, Chicago deep dish is more like lasagna, but I mean, I get it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, but you got to have it. You got to have it done right, right? Done right, and
yeah. We're all Jimmy. You know, throw me your address. I'll mail you some really good kibasi from here. There's these guys I call the Polish boys. They make it themselves. It's great. They've got so many different flavors. You'll be loving it.
I'm going to take you up on that.
All right.
I might put together the order because
Excellent. You too.
I do still slip and call it kibasi. Kielbasa,
Exactly.
You know, Ed's over there just calling it Zazich.
Zazich, yeah. It's a whole different thing.
It's Zazich. It's like everything's Zazich. Or if you go to Philadelphia, everything's a John.
Oh, well, yeah.
Everything's a what, Jeff?
a John. Every time I've gone to Philly, like, hey, this John over here, like, you're a John. This thing on the table's a John. I'm like, okay. When you put it on spaghetti, when you put it on spaghetti, it's Parmesan.
Yeah.
Now I'm getting hungry.
This has been great, man. I'll tell you what. This has been great, and we're gonna have to have you come back on the show. And I know you had asked, but we're going to have you come back on the show and actually play us something from your catalog live, if we can figure out a way to make sure it comes through on the audio correctly. I didn't want you to have to rush through all that this time around to get it set up.
Okay, I mean, well, I've got my decent microphone hooked up here, so it wouldn't be a problem.
All
right, cool.
We'll have to bring you back on with something. I've always got a guitar handy. So.
I mean,
but
we're running on the end of the time.
Yeah, that's fine. No, let's do it again. I'd love to come back. I'm just very grateful for you guys having me on. It's a pleasure to meet you both, and I hope we can call each other friends because
absolutely
great time.
I mean, I've been called worse by better, so
I love you already.
Yeah, sounds good. But man, listen, Jim, thanks for coming on, and for everybody listening. I'm going to include the link to his YouTube as well as his SoundCloud in the show notes. And if you're watching this live on Twitter, it's not going to be available to you unless Jim puts it on there himself when I post the link live. But it will be on YouTube, and it will be on the podcast link on Substack, Apple Podcast, and my Substack. So that's where you can find the links. And on Twitter, Jim, you have a Twitter. You're a grown man. You can put it there yourself under the link to the video.
I'll bet I can.
I bet you can. But we have the technology. But do we have the will?
No.
I do.
But all right. Thank you all for watching. Thank you all for listening. Jim, thank you for coming on.
My pleasure.
Ed, thank you for being you. And as always, and as always, thank you for shoving this pro-Catholic content down the throats of all those anti-Catholics out there whenever you share this. But we're going to wrap this episode up, and we will see you all tomorrow. We got another guest coming on Friday, and I'm not even going to give you a hint on who that is, but we're out of here. Thank you, guys.
God bless everybody.
Take care now. God bless.